Yeah, I've thought long and hard about this question, and I know you probably didn't ask it directly, but again, you're grateful to be a part of this opportunity, and you're grateful anytime your name is mentioned with being the first. But you don't want to take away from how we got to this point, and that talks about your team. I'm talking about your team and everybody that put the work into getting your program to this point, and those that have come before you. There's a lot of people in this coaching profession that have come way before me that have given me this opportunity. But the other person I think that deserves a lot of credit is our former AD, Jack Swarbrick, because he's the one, and our president, John Jenkins, at the time, that made the decision to hire a guy that was 35 years old and had never been a head coach. He made that decision. And so Jack Swarbrick and Father John Jenkins deserve a lot of the credit for having courage and for making a decision to hire me at that time. And so I want to make sure I recognize them. And again, this isn't about me. This isn't about one person. It takes a team. It takes a program, and it takes a lot of people committing to something bigger than themselves to put your team in a position to be here. And I understand it, and I'm very grateful for it. And if this creates more opportunities for other coaches, other minority coaches, great. It's great. It is great for the future generations of coaches, of college football coaches, of leaders. And so I am all for that, and I'm grateful to be a part of that. But at the end of the day, the attention on one person takes away what really gives your program a chance to get here, and that's team, and that's committing to something bigger than yourself. And that's important to me. How we got ready for this season, how we're adapting is you have a plan, you have a team, you have a sports performance team that you listen to, and you talk through some different scenarios, and you got to be adaptable. You got to be willing to adapt based off the unpredictable things that can happen, and that's what we've been able to do. And I feel like our guys will be physically ready to roll.
Andrea Adelson with ESPN.com for James. How has Abdul Carter progressed over the last week, and will he be able to play tomorrow?
Yeah, I was going to ask you guys, there's a couple questions about the health of the Notre Dame team. I was going to hope you guys would ask more questions so we could figure some of that stuff out. Yeah, we anticipate Abdul playing. He's doing everything he possibly can to play. His approach has been awesome. He's lived in the training room, but it'll be a game time decision, and we'll see. But just like the guys that we're looking at on the Notre Dame roster and concerned about their impact on the game, Abdul's one of those guys as well. So I get the question, and I understand where it's coming from, but Abdul's approached this the right way. He wants to play. He's put a ton of cryptic messages out on social media, which you guys have probably seen those. I learn as much from those as I do from our trainers. But we are hopeful and expecting Abdul to play, and we'll see. We'll see how that plays out.
We have a question on the right. I'm looking for.
Is running the football and stopping the run a big part of your team's identity?
I think for us, it's what we do well and what we have to do to have success with this current team. And, it's really, as you look at the course of our season, it's been a big indication of the outcome of the game, our ability to run the football and our ability to stop the run. It's a mentality. It's a mindset. It's just from my defensive coaching background. When you can't stop an offense from running the ball, it can be demoralizing, and that's why we say we have to do it now. We're probably ranked higher in the pass efficiency part of defensive statistics, but still the mentality of stopping the run is so important. And as you get later in the season and you play better teams, it's going to be important, right? The same as the turnover margin and those type of things. But as you look at Penn State, if you are not able to do a good job at stopping the run and trying to run the ball, you're not going to have success, and you're not going to get the outcome you want. And so that will be important as we get into tomorrow too.
Following up on what you said, James, on a need for uniformity, I wanted to get your opinion, Marcus, just as a coach of a program that really prides itself on independence. Does that need to happen? And then, James, I know you've served on the AFC boards. Do coaches really want that to happen in terms of your interactions, to have it be the same or as much of the same, even though the sport's kind of celebrated for being different at different places?
Yeah, Coach Frank has a lot more experience. One, being a head coach in college football and even just being in the college athletics, where you can formulate a strong opinion. For us, whatever you're going to tell us, we'll make the most of it. We pride ourselves in our independence. If they come out with a decision that we can't be independent, then we'll make it work. And so I don't have a whole bunch of opinion on it. Right? I'm a guy that just tell us what we're doing and let's go and move forward and let's make the most of it. So, not the answer you're probably looking for, but I'm not strongly opinionated about it. I love where we're at right now, and Pete Bavacqua and our Notre Dame administration will continue to make decisions that's best for our program.
On the right.
I'm
sorry.
I think in a very eloquent way, Marcus just called me old. What you said? Much more experience. Yeah, that word. Yeah. I guess what I would say, the reason that I feel that way is I look at the college football, playoff committee, and I just try. Most things in life, I try to look at things from both perspectives, right? And I just try to sit here and say, if I was in that room and I'm getting criticized about who makes the playoff, whether it was 4 or now 12, and everybody's got an opinion, I just think, how do you put those people that are in that room to make a really important decision that impacts the landscape of college football, and they can't compare apples to apples or oranges to oranges? I think that makes it very, very difficult. Strength of schedule plays a factor, and obviously Notre Dame, plays a great schedule every year and have forever. And I get the understanding and the impact of independence on their program. I'm just talking about it more strictly from the College Football Playoff Committee sitting in that room trying to make decisions. How do you make decisions when every conference is different, schools are different? I think it puts them in a very, very difficult position. And I'm just really speaking on it more from that behalf.
This is for Marcus. You opened saying that you guys still have a lot to do in the next 24 hours. You guys had essentially 2 less days to prepare for this game, so I'm curious, what specifically do you guys feel like you want to accomplish over the next day, and is it different from a typical final day before a game for you?
I think for both programs, we figured out who we're playing at the same time, right? At the end of our game, we knew we were going to play Penn State, and they didn't know exactly who they were going to play. So the mental preparation time has been the same. For us, it was just a normal week. It was a Saturday to a Saturday as we look at it in terms of game week. I think the coaches, we probably were a little bit behind to start just because of the travel in that aspect. But physically, our guys were good. And we're going to be ready to roll. But we got to utilize, as you just said, every minute we have from now until tomorrow night at 7:30. And so that's the mindset that we all have, is every minute we got to utilize. We didn't have 2 extra days, so let's utilize this time that we have physically and mentally to make sure we're prepared to go tomorrow night.
Defensively speaking, how do you scheme differently against a dynamic running back like Ashton Genty and a running QB like Riley Leonard? And for Coach Freeman, do you design your game plan differently when facing a defensive front with monster edge rushers, or do you just let your quarterback be who he is and do what he does?
He said you first.
Yeah, I think kind of back to what Marcus mentioned earlier as a defensive-minded head coach, guy's been a defensive coordinator. I think it always starts with trying to make people one-dimensional and to try to take away their strength. So last week we had a tremendous challenge in stopping or reducing the impact that Ashton Jeanty had in the game. And in my argument, one of the better backs in the history of college football based on his production and what he was able to do. So to me, we look at it similar. Notre Dame does a phenomenal job with their running backs, what they're averaging per carry, how they play up front. But now you're also having to factor the quarterback into it, which creates another challenge, which creates more stress. And how do you do that? At the end of the day, our focus is still on trying to defend the run. Notre Dame does it in a little bit different way than what Boise State did last week. But it's still the whole philosophy of trying to make them one-dimensional as much as you possibly can. But also understanding that the quarterback's going to make plays. The running backs are going to make plays, and you're going to have to flush it and move on to the next play. And this is going to be a 4-quarter football game, and we're going to have to be prepared to compete like that. So stopping the run is priority number one.
Yeah. Each week you have to tactically prepare for the strengths of your opponent, right? And obviously you mentioned rushing the passer, and their D-line is a huge strength of their defense. Now, they got guys across the board that can present issues, but you always start with, hey, let's try to figure out to have a plan for what they do well. And, again, every week you tailor what you're doing to address that. And so this was no different. We understand that they have a really good front, but they got, like I said, a really good secondary and some good linebackers. And so this is a tough defense that we're going to face offensively, but we'll have a plan, and then it's about adjustments. This game is about adjustments, and we got to be ready to make the adjustments necessary.